Hello, Xers and interwebers. Welcome to Naive in the 90s, the podcast. I'm your host, Emily. I was a 70s baby, an 80s kid, and a 90s troublemaker. On today's episode, we will be talking with my special guest, Jade, about TV back in the day and just about anything that relates. So let's just jump into it. But first, before we get into the call, let's read a quick passage from my book, Naive in the 90s, available on Amazon. February 21st, 1993. From February 13th to today, February 21st, we had winter break. I stayed over Graham's. It was cool. Got to use the phone, watch TV, drink soda, eat frozen pizza, see my friends. But whatever, I had to go home. Uncle Tom brought me in his truck. He said if he got the job he wants, that he just applied for, then I could live with him and Graham. I think that's cool, but don't know about leaving my family. We might not get along, but I still love them. I don't know. I'm confused. Very confused. About my life, my best friend, the guys, love, life, my emotions. Today we're talking with a very special guest, Jade Peacemaker. Jade is a dear friend and the cousin to my soul sister, Rose, who is mentioned in my book. We talk about our connection in the upcoming call, but Jade and I both are very much squirrel-brained, neurospicy women, so it took over 20 minutes to even do introductions. We literally connected for the call and instantly jumped into it. Plus, for the only time during the call, one of the only times, the audio cuts out when I say her name, so I just wanted to mention that here. And, yes, so our topic is 80s, 90s TV. It started out as being, the differences of back then compared to now, but it kind of turned into just a free-for-all, just circling the idea of TV. And, it's fun, and it's a lot, and just, I love it. So I think it will definitely keep your interest and keep you engaged, but also on your toes. And noted, from now on, we will try to have more specific and solid topics before, just doing whatever this is, because, but we shall see how that goes. But honestly, if this call is any indication, I really have my doubts that even topics would have any help. So I don't know. But yeah, so just a quick couple things before we start. So the phrase white bread is used in our conversation, and Bruce Springsteen is referred to. But it is a phrase actually used in the Billy Joel song Uptown Girl, which was a huge hit in the 80s. And also many times when I personally use it, because I do tend to use that phrase even in real life, I actually mean bread, as in B-R-E-A-D, not B-R-E-D. And I really have until recently, when I heard the lyrics and I had the captions on. So they mean bread as in breeding, not Wonder Bread, which is actually what I always picture is Wonder Bread when I say it. So yeah, I mean, it basically means the same thing, but I don't know. I just wanted to clarify that. Also, I say Nancy Reagan at one point, but I actually meant to say Tipper Gore. But my very overstimulated brain was just Rolodexing and landed on the wrong name. So please keep that in mind when you hear that. But on that part of that conversation, Nancy Reagan is the one that 100% did believe that saying and staying away from drugs was as easy and simple as saying no. That is where all the like dare and like, you know, just say no. Where that came from. So, yeah, talk about being removed and out of touch, huh? But, yeah, so I digress. But I did mean Tipper Gore and not Nancy Reagan. So, mm-hmm. Another thing I mention is my best friend from elementary school and her brothers. But in my book, I mentioned that Kim was my best friend since fourth grade, and she was. However, I have mentioned this before, I was a hardcore friend floater, and I have always had multiple best friends. I think it's how both of my kids are honestly my favorite. Just because I believe that there is no limit to how many people you can love and connect with. Like, just because you love one person doesn't mean that you don't love another. So, yeah. But all my best, closest friends, they are my family. They are all the best for different reasons. No one which is less than the other. Um, but yeah, that's just, it's a phrase that's ingrained in my 80s, kid brain. Um, just best friend necklaces, just like the Care Bears were your best friends, my buddy, like just best friends, best friends, best friends. So yeah, the best friend I mentioned in this episode isn't Kim, or even Lily or Esther, but actually one of the girls I talk about in episode 10 that just wasn't part of my high school and really junior high group. Um, we were still friends kind of like behind the scenes almost. Like no one hit each other. It was just we didn't float in the same circles and our circles weren't even in the same room, you know? But she was the Sharon to my Angela if this was like a my so-called life thing. I also have a few other thoughts on our conversation, but I will probably wait until afterwards to talk about those. So I guess let's just jump into it.
Emily.
Oh, hi.
Hi. Oh my goodness.
Oh, so how are you?
I am good. I'm good. I'm so excited to talk about the 80s with you and do this podcast. This is so exciting.
Oh, I know. I know. I'm so excited that you're here. I've been like, oh, I was so bummed last week when we were so close and it didn't happen.
Right, but that's okay because we had
Yeah.
another week to prepare and
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. You know what I did? I watched literally a reel of all of the theme songs and openings from the 80s. Like every single one. And I can't tell you how many like just memories were just like sprung open. It's like,
I
oh,
remember having a CD of 80s theme songs in like my visor collection of CDs, right? In my car.
that's awesome.
So whenever I needed to hear that uplifting song, it was there.
So what was your go-to theme song?
I mean, Cheers, right?
Yeah.
Cheers, Brady Bunch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
No, cheers.
yeah.
I was literally just saying to my husband that like that theme song is like childhood. I just remember it being on at like when we were young and when we were teenagers and then later on reruns. It just seems
Yeah.
like it was like always there.
Yeah. And it's one of those songs that you sing your whole life. And then all of a sudden one day you're just like, oh, I
Yeah.
suddenly get this song.
Yep.
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 And just, so I am from suburbia. I am from Metro West Boston. So growing up, it's just,
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's so encompassing of everything that I know, the Red Sox and
Yeah.
that whole New England idea of we are the world and everyone wants to be us.
Yeah. You're like,
Which
yes.
is like embarrassing, but it was so encompassing of my childhood that there was no better place to be than New England.
Yeah, no, also growing up in New England, yes, there really was no better place. And I kind of feel like entertainment cemented that idea for us
Uh-huh.
because we kind of lived in areas that were like the typical, sitcom setting almost.
Very much. Very much. I mean, it's almost embarrassing to me today that
Mhm.
my great grandparents grew up in the town
Right.
like next to me where my entire family still is. So I am a townie. I never intended to be a townie, but I know everyone. And if I don't know them, I know their relatives.
Yeah, but see, there's a difference between being a hometown girl and a townie. I feel like townies are the ones that you find, you know, um, at bars like every night, or like the ones that like hang out at the gas station, like hoping they can get a cigarette from you. Like, I think that's what a townie is. Like, you're a hometown girl, you know?
That's a good distinction. I've never heard that distinction before. I really like that.
Yeah, it's like every town has like those weirdos that just don't grow up, and like no matter what age they are, they're still exactly the same person they were like when they were a hoodlum or a thug or a weirdo back
Well,
in the day.
yeah, and the people who have truly never left the town. It's one
Mhm.
people who it's one thing when people come back to their roots, and I'll say that that's what I am. Maybe I'm patting myself on my back that I left for 20 years. I was
Yeah, I
gone
mean,
from when I was 17 to 37.
yeah. I mean, that's significant. That's like life experience, because I feel like when we grow up, our hometown is just like the world. Like, we assume that everywhere is kind of like that, even when we see differently on TV, or like, in back then the National Geographic and PBS. But like, I feel like we still think that everyone, like, in America had the same kind of childhood and, setting that we did
We
when.
did, yeah. There was this very kind of homogenous view of how we all were, and it's a little, yeah. I adore my. I don't want to say anything bad about any family member, but I'm just going to say that when I was learning Spanish and decided to go live in Spain for 6 months,
Mhm.
that there were certain people who said, "Why are you learning a different language?
Right, right,
There's
right.
no point." Right?
Yeah.
Like it was completely foreign to why an English speaking person would have a desire to speak a foreign language. And it's like, okay, well, if you don't get it, I don't know how to explain
Right.
it.
Yep, yep, definitely. I think that's because I call it white bread USA.
Yeah, 100%. Bruce Springsteen,
Yeah.
yeah, the Karate Kid, 100%, 100%.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And I know that we're talking about our theme today is to talk about TV shows, and but yeah, the Karate Kid, it just, when you say white bread, that's just exactly what I think of.
But I think a theme of the 80s was that, like, the white bread persona
Yep.
was what everybody was selling, because that was the American dream almost at that time. And they were trying to show everyone that, hey, this is what normal is, and this is how things are supposed to be, and this is, how things are supposedly outside
Right.
of life, but we actually lived it. So.
I'm probably going on tangents right now, but I think of Maine, for example, that people think of Maine,
Hmm.
and Maine is a huge state.
Right.
Huge. Probably, I mean, it's huge. And they just think of the coast and
Yeah. And
lobster and the
lobster.
big houses. And it's
Yeah.
like there's no conception of what real life in Maine is like, or what the other side of that is. And
Right.
and we both have history in California, right? And
Mm-hmm.
people think of like San Diego, LA, and
Yeah.
San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
NorCal versus
Yeah.
SoCal. But like your family, were they from Modesto? Is that correct?
My parents lived there for a while, but I actually do have family in Silicon Valley. So like San
Oh,
Jose
okay.
and
Yeah.
like
And I was,
Campbell.
yeah. And I was in the Sacramento area, and it's just
Hmm.
it's a very different California. And then you go up to the northwest area of California, and
Oh yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's such a huge state that encompasses so many different people and so many different
Oh
lifestyles.
yeah. Oh yeah. You go south and it's a complete desert.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
even LA, as opposed to, what am I, Bakersfield.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Well, that's like I grew up in Connecticut, and like a lot of people think of Connecticut as either farms or very, very rich, waspy type people.
oh,
And like
exactly. Yeah. You think of like, yeah, suburban New York
yes,
City.
yeah, which it really isn't. There's a
No.
lot more here that's going on. Like and
Yeah.
on all ends of the spectrum. Like we have, scary, dirty cities, and then we have like and like then we have like really beautiful historical old just gorgeous places, and it's
Yeah.
definitely a spectrum, and we're little. I mean I can't imagine like giant like states. They have
Right.
such a span,
Oh my God.
and
I
that
know.
and that
Yeah.
wasn't what we were fed as children growing up.
No, certainly not.
I haven't noticed, like, I did notice it a little when I was younger because, like, my family, even though my parents did stay married, they weren't divorced or anything. Like, my parents were definitely different than the typical everyday parents.
Hmm.
Um, so like I had that little bit of disconnect, but now I have revisited. My husband and I have decided to just revisit a whole bunch of old movies and TV shows, and a lot of them they're kind of disappointing, and they're kind
Oh,
of
really?
upsetting. No, they
Like which
really
ones?
are. Like
Like which
okay,
ones?
so we have watched we started with the Brady Bunch because we were like, you can't get more like childhood than the Brady Bunch, I feel like.
If
For
you were disappointed by the Brady Bunch, then your expectations were
no,
unrealistic.
that's the thing. Like I think it's just like we're old. I don't know, maybe we're jaded and bitter at this point, but like I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
was weird to watch it because it's kind of like they serve these ideas and these ideals in these 22-minute segments that like I get that they're trying to serve to like younger kids and whatnot, but they're kind of belittling, and they put people into um boxes that like those characters never get out of those boxes, you know what I mean,
Oh, 100%.
where people are just so much more complex than being the father who was the breadwinner and the mom who like, and Carol didn't even like really cook. I think she like poured milk sometimes. You know what I mean? Like
I
she
know.
just
I know.
she
I
like
know. Well, and
needlepoint.
yeah, but if you yeah, it's oh my gosh, I like my spicy brain is going everywhere right now. Like
Yeah.
gosh, yeah. I mean, number one, Mr. Brady was gay, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
So let's throw that one. And then Mrs. Brady, I don't know how many children she actually did have,
Mhm.
supposedly three,
Right.
but that is actually a difficult job managing, because if you figure she was the point person
Oh yeah.
for all six children,
Hmm.
and any appointment they needed or anything, then she was probably on the phone the whole time,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
you
Like
know. And then Alice, like she's
big.
supposed to be like some matron, and like come on, Alice looks great.
Yeah.
She is in fantastic shape. I mean, she's
44. The first season of that, Alice is supposed to be 44 years old. So, and I hate, and that's another thing, because even at that age, like, you're right, she looks awesome, and like, she's got a sense of humor, she's in great
yep,
shape, she stays like right up with those kids, like, she does
yep.
all the things that the parents don't want to do. She gets up first, she goes to bed last, like, she does all the things. But they paint her in the light of like, she's 44 and unmarried, she's a spinster, and like, Sam the
Well,
butcher
and that's what they were.
the
Yeah.
option. And like, that's what I'm talking about when I say like, visiting this stuff is like such a disappointment because it's just like, there's so much more to like Mrs. Brady needle pointing or pouring, the milk, or Alice being a
Yeah.
spinster. It's just, I don't know, it's weird. I think maybe because like, we're in a time of, women's, like a second women's lib or something. I don't know. Like, we're just
I think
fighting.
we're in the fourth wave, the fourth or the fifth wave at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah. I mean, like, but like, maybe that's why. But like, when I see that there's these shows that like we were shown as children as like what is normal, it's a little sad, because it's just like we were trying to tell these little girls like, if you're not married by the time you're 44, you're a loser. You know what I mean? And
Well, of course, and there's no point in life. And as I was going through all of the shows that we were talking about,
mhm,
Murphy Brown was
mhm.
one that stuck out that I actually wasn't going to bring up, but she was the first one who was like pregnant and actually showing that she was pregnant and still
Yeah,
working, and this whole thing that women can have it all. And
yeah.
no, women,
And there was a lot of backlash with Murphy
oh,
Brown.
so much, so much.
Like,
And yeah, and I don't remember all the details, so
right.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
because
that
I mean, we
people
were
can like
kids.
comment and add more to this
Mhm.
conversation who know more about Murphy Brown. But I just I never wanted that. From
Right.
the first time that I saw people, quote unquote, having it all, I'm like, that looks stressful.
Yeah, same,
You know?
absolutely. That's why I
And
was like,
I haven't worked in 10 years, quote unquote. I haven't worked in 10 years. I've tried to go back to work multiple times, but my priority is my child,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's what I choose.
yeah,
And it's fine if other people choose other ways, but it's not cool, that whole, oh, you can still be the anchor newswoman
yeah.
and the
You
epic
have to be
mother
it
attending
all.
all the soccer games and
Right,
everything else. No, you
right.
can't. You can't.
Well, right. And I feel like that was part of the problem too, was like they were painting, women into a light that like, yeah, you can work, you can have equality, but your equality also includes everything else you carried before. Like,
Yes.
and
Yes.
like, it's the same. I am not a
Right. You want to
conventional
you want
worker.
to have a
I was
full-time
with
job, that's fine, honey, but don't let your
right,
kids down, don't let your
right.
husband down.
Right. And it's super sad. And it's like, I also, stayed home with my kids. I don't work a conventional job. I do creative other things, you know what I mean? And like,
Yep.
I just like, I felt weird growing up having it be like, well, you're clearly not doing enough because you're not doing the 9 to 5 and doing all of this stuff for your children.
Right.
So it just, I don't know. It's like, I love going back. I love revisiting all this. Like, I can't tell you how nostalgic I've been recently,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, it's kind of bittersweet because I see a lot of the stuff that they pumped at us as being normal, or what we were supposed to compare ourselves to. And
Yeah.
I was just telling my husband the other day, you know, there's no way that our entire generation doesn't have some sort of like complex PTSD from
Seriously? Like,
from
right?
everything that was pumped at us, from the news, which was not censored the way that it is. And I don't mean censored as in like, picking and choosing what topics. I mean, when there was a war or there was a massacre in a different country, we saw every single bit of it. The
On
blood,
TV. Yeah.
yeah, and we sat around the news. Like, news is not like it is now. It's not. And you and I talked about this for this topic, that like consumption is different. We didn't watch the news how people watch the news now. We
No.
gathered every night, and everyone I know gathered every night around that TV
Around the
with
TV.
their
Yep.
family. Everyone
Yep.
in the family
Yep.
watched this news where we watched kids being stolen. We watched people dying from AIDS, which, because sex was bad for you.
Ships blowing up. Did you not
Yes,
watch the Challenger blow up in
in
your
school.
classroom in elementary
Yes,
school? Yeah.
yes,
And then all the
yes,
teachers were like, okay, so hey, and some teachers dealt with it better than others, which is no
yep.
judgment on the teachers who didn't deal with it well,
Yeah,
because
because
how
it
the
was
heck were you
shocking.
supposed to know that was going to happen?
Yes.
There
Yeah.
were no drills preparing you for that.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely
Yeah.
not. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like, I just feel like, the bittersweet part of it, it's just like seeing where, we're Gen X. We don't fucking care, whatever generation, the give no fucks crew. And like that, that's great. But like also, guys, that attitude, part of it, yeah, sure, because we're cool and tough, I guess. But a lot of that comes from the trauma that we experienced as a generation. And I feel like TV contributed to it so much, from the real stuff that they were showing us all the way to the fake stuff that they were trying to like almost indoctrinate us into this perfect society that they wanted.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. There was this world that they wanted to create for us. 100%.
Yep.
You look at these. I mean, we would get together in college and we would have our like 90210 nights, and we would have our and I wrote down this like whole list of things, and it's just so like you look at the Golden Girls, right?
Yep.
And that was something that the whole family would sit down for. And it was nuanced enough that the adults could get the inappropriate jokes, but it would fly by the kids, right? And now we watch it and we're like, damn, mom. Like,
oh,
really?
yes, because I also, my husband and I also rewatched The Golden Girls, and it was one that did not disappoint, because you are 100% correct. When I was a kid, I remember watching them. I remember specific episodes. I remember specific details and all this stuff, but I never thought of it as like a dirty old lady show. But it was like a funny old lady show. But when we watched it, I'm like, they are just a bunch of horny old ladies.
Oh my goodness, it was so funny. Yet I could sit there as a kid in elementary school and watch it with my grandmother. And I feel like that's how TV was back then. And
yeah.
I don't want to, there are still creators who can create things that can transcend generations.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's a funky thing I'm going to say, but back then it's like you had to figure out how to relate to the masses.
Yes.
So how do I figure out how not to piss off the most people who are watching this show across generations?
Mm-hmm.
But then that was also very homogenous.
Yes. Yeah. Well, because I feel like, especially in the 80s, that's when censoring started happening. There was a lot of that, like Nancy Reagan, protect the children from, the satanic panic and the hip hop. You know
Is
what I
that
mean?
when it started? Did it start with her?
What? Yeah, I don't know if like that's like when that like weird coy humor started
we can't
coming
say
in.
that it started with her because the Salem witch trials did happen.
Oh yeah. I
Let's
mean,
not
yeah.
Nancy
Well,
Reagan
yeah.
on everything.
Yeah.
She did teach me everything I know about drugs.
Well, yeah. You just have to say no. It's that
Right?
simple.
Right? Right? No, Mom, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah, you were a very good girl, right?
Of course I was. Of course I was. Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna take this point, this minute right here, just a second, because we didn't do both squirrel brained
Oh,
today.
we are. We totally are. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I just want to let all my listeners know that my Jade, he is actually the cousin of Rose from the book. And, Rose was and is a significant person in my life. She is a
Oh,
soul sister,
yeah.
more than a friend. She is just my sister. Like,
She's a connector. Rose
oh
is a connector.
yeah,
And it's like as soon as we met, like I think that you and I heard about each other so much through her that the moment we met, we were like, "Hey, baby."
yeah. Like
And
we already knew each other.
we already knew and it was no issues and right.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
it's even, I mean, we like, yeah, we
Yeah.
we're family. Like we're
Yep.
adopted family to each
Instantly.
other
Yep.
at this point.
Instantly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And
So,
I do want to, because today we are doing a fun theme today, but one of these episodes we are going to dedicate to Rose, because even though she was very slightly in the book, and I did try to convey how important she was
well,
in my
yeah.
ending letter, but I feel like she deserves a whole thing for
Oh,
herself.
of course she does.
Like,
She does. She deserves a whole season.
yeah,
I mean,
right, right. And she could
and the
fill
fact
a whole season. So
she really could. And the fact is that your book conveyed, you were talking about your life in your early and mid-teens, and
mhm.
Rose came into your life towards the end of high school and then was extraordinarily significant
Oh yeah.
in your late teens and early 20s,
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Irreplaceable is what she was. And unfortunately, and I've been asked if I plan on writing another book to continue it, and I'm just like, that, and about that time. That is the time that we don't speak about.
yeah.
And so
Hey baby, you're young. You're young.
yeah.
You have a long time to figure out if you want to
Yeah.
write about that part of your life.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that is when you and I became connected.
Yep. Yep. And thank goodness we did, because
Right?
like it's just aw. But
I
that's again
know.
another thing that Rose brought into this world that's just amazing, is just
I know. She's right. Like she knows how to connect hearts.
she
And
really,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So I just wanted to throw that out there, just to like put the connection, as to like, because again, we both being spicy squirrel brained ladies, we were just like, yay, jump, 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 jump.
Rose was like, you two need each other.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. She's gonna hear this, and she's gonna be doing that head shake she does.
Oh my God, she'll be crying so hard she laughs. I mean, wait, crying so hard she laughs. Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Yes.
But
So,
to connect her with all this, she loved her TV shows too. So, and her and I watched many a thing together, and so
mhm. I remember one of our differences was Guiding Light versus General Hospital. And yeah, and one of them is still on today.
oh, don't even. That's all in the wound. Listen, okay, it's not my fault. And this is one of those things I will say isn't anyone's fault, because people of our generation who watched soap operas, we were born into whichever one we ended up watching.
Whatever one our mother was watching or
Our
a
grandmother,
babysitter was watching.
yes.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it was 100% not a choice. It was These are the ones you watch. You were born into a Young and the Restless family or a Days of Our Lives family. You didn't pick. You got what you got.
You are not kidding. You are not kidding. And oh my goodness, the day. So can I bring Rose up again? The
Oh,
day
yes,
the day that I got Rose into, so you were always guiding light and I was always in General Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved out to California, right?
Yep.
After I got, so we're talking like 20s, well after your book.
Yep.
And she's reading Anne Rice, right? Like
Yes.
all of those vampire books that
We
the
were
two
so
of you
obsessed.
just yeah, oh my goodness, you were obsessed.
Yes.
And I'm watching General Hospital. And she's looking up from, this 600-page book that she's reading, and she's noticing Jason Morgan. And she's just like, okay, words on a page or Jason Morgan? What am I going to pick? And I remember the moment she slammed her book shut and said, fine.
I can so picture that. Because her love for Jason is unparalleled. So
oh my god, seriously, and like, and you got him to send her that message. Oh, that was
yeah.
that
Yeah.
was,
Didn't he do such a wonderful job? He was just such a nice
really,
guy.
I know. Yeah.
Just,
Yeah. It's the celebrities who appreciate their fans are just
mhm.
amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yep.
But you are 100% correct that we came into our soap operas based on what we came home to.
Yep.
Right? And in the 80s,
Yep.
God only knows what that was going to be. You know?
I know. Do you ever think back to like some of the things that the characters did? Like I know with Days of Our Lives, Marlene got like possessed and was like a full on like Linda Blair for a while. Like
and the people who got buried alive for months at a time.
Yeah. And and like on Guiding Light, Riva got cloned and her clone was named Dolly.
Is that who they named the sheep after?
No, I think they named the character after the sheep, which I think is like almost
the sheep
worse.
came first.
Yeah, I think it's almost worse
God.
that they did that.
Yeah.
But there was like aging serum and like it's a disaster.
I know those soap operas were something else.
Did you ever watch Passions?
Passion. It sounds so familiar. It's I don't think so, but it sounds very familiar.
It was, I believe, the late, like very late, because I was pregnant with my second child when
So
when
that
it
would
was
have been like what, 99 or 2000?
Yeah,
Yeah.
99,
No,
like,
I do remember how like all of these, because TV started changing a lot and they were trying to figure out, do people want game shows or talk shows or soap operas? So like all of these little things were popping up.
Yeah. That's, reality TV started taking over, I think, too.
That's
Because when we grew up, there wasn't reality TV until The Real World.
That's true. Yeah, our reality TV was what, Star Search?
Yeah, I mean, really.
Yeah, there was and The Real World, I mean, gosh, that's a whole different topic. I mean, we haven't even talked about MTV. I don't think we can talk about The Real World until we talk about MTV.
The listeners are going to be like, what is this conversation? It is everywhere. But listen,
if you want to know what neurospicy means, listen to this podcast.
Yeah, we're just keeping everyone on their toes, right? We're getting those serotonin bumps.
Oh my goodness. I know. Yeah. So weren't we talk about cartoons?
Oh, we definitely can talk about cartoons. I mean, we can do anything we want.
I know. Well, I think that when we originally talked about this episode, we were talking about the difference in way that TV is consumed now
Yes.
by children as
Yes.
opposed to how it was consumed when we were kids.
Yes.
And, you know, when we were kids, it was, I mean, we would, TV wasn't 24 hours.
No. You couldn't
And
pick or choose when you watch something.
no. Like, you had to be in front of the TV or you were not going to see it.
Yep.
And then God invented reruns.
Yes.
You know? So wait, there's something in the summer, you know?
Yes. You have to hope that you were home at the exact time, because like just the day, because there was no rhyme or reason. Usually it was just like filler
Oh
TV.
yeah.
Yep.
Was there ever a time where you missed an episode that
Oh.
you were absolutely hell-bent on seeing in the summer and you would not let anyone tell you what happened?
Oh, I definitely waited for certain things. I mostly missed them. So because parents weren't like really up on letting us watch a lot of TV. So, and the TV we had,
nor was mine.
Like, we didn't have cable. My family growing up, we never got cable because my parents
Nope.
were not into it. My grandparents, where I spent a lot of time, they had cables, you know, and of course every single friend of mine had cable because
of course. Do you want to know when my mom got cable?
when
I went to college.
Oh, how rude.
Right?
So rude.
And she blames it on my stepfather, my first stepfather.
Yeah.
She's like, well, he wanted it. It's like, yeah, whatever, ma. You know. And she also, we didn't have call waiting. We didn't have answering machines. And like, I remember I was like, Mom, like, people want to, like, I'm trying to be a tween girl. Can we please have an answering machine? Yep. And she was like, if we have an answering machine, I'll have to call people back. And now all of a sudden she's like, I texted you 30 minutes ago. Why haven't you responded?
Yeah, how the tables have turned, right?
Because you raised me, woman.
Yeah, it was so everything. Like we were saying, like the consumption, just like communicate, everything was so different back then.
It was different.
Just we had to, like we already said, you know, like everyone kind of gathered for the news, and then there were certain, you know, shows that the kids were allowed to watch, and then there were certain shows that it was meant for the whole family to watch. And
yeah,
it's so different now where everyone, they just get to pick and choose, and then, which is cool. Like, don't get me wrong, like I do like variety, especially, you know, being the spicy people we are. We do like what we want when we want it. So, you know.
No, that I mean, that's definitely true, but I mean, there was also something to, like, you know, when I went to college. Not everyone goes to college. But we had this thing on Wednesday night that 9-0 was on at 8 p.m. on Wednesday night. So it's like everyone would get to this person's apartment, and there were no cell phones. There was, you know, there were landlines and answering machines, and we might listen to them if we choose to. And we would go to this person's house to watch the show all together and experience it together.
Which, you know, it's like we traded convenience for that experience, that group experience, which is kind of sad.
We didn't know that the convenience existed.
No.
Right? It didn't even exist at that point.
I don't think anyone could have even thought, you know, I don't think any of us even dreamt up that there would be a time where we could just, you know, just choose basically anything we want.
I know.
And the idea of watching a series, like binging a series, what? like, oh my God, we didn't have that. So it's like going back and watching all these things, you see all these inconsistencies to, all sorts of stuff, the story to characters to the set.
Yeah.
Like, there's all these things that, of course, like, we didn't catch, or, a lot of people
Oh
didn't
yeah.
catch.
The rewriting. The rewriting. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, that didn't happen. Oh yeah, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right. No,
Yeah.
and I mean, you're absolutely correct. That it didn't. And if you missed it, you missed it. And if you
Yeah.
missed it in the summer, then it was gone.
Yeah. Well, oh well for
And
you.
oh well for you.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then even, I mean, I think that the first thing that I ever binged was actually with Rose at my brother's house when he was away on his honeymoon, which would have been like maybe 2002.
Okay.
And we binged Sex in the City
Oh,
on
yeah. Yeah.
DVD. An
Yes.
entire season on DVD. And it was the very first time I ever did it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes so much sense.
Right. And the hangover the next morning.
Yeah. But it was worth it, right?
Oh, hell, of course it was. Of course it was.
Yeah. Yeah. We definitely it is weird how different we consume things. Like going back to the Saturday morning cartoons, that just isn't a thing anymore. And I mean, it was an experience for every, modern 80s child at the time.
Yeah.
We would wake up, we turn on that TV, probably get a bowl of cereal and just plop ourselves in front of there, knowing that for the next couple hours, the TV was going to be all about us and our entertainment.
Well, and that's the thing. It was one day a week for about 3 hours, 3 hours. And that was it. And we thought that it was like the best thing in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And it was one day a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden Cartoon Network came out.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And then the 90 seconds of commercials.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
okay, you have 3 commercials every 15 minutes
Mm-hmm.
that last 90 seconds. And I think that when microwave popcorn came out, wasn't that an advertising strategy that like, hey, this can pop in a commercial break?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that would make sense. Yeah. Yeah. What you did in the commercial break too, it's like if you had to pee, you waited for a commercial break. If you needed a drink, you waited for a commercial break.
Absolutely. And then and sometimes you would be fist fighting your siblings getting to the bathroom for that commercial break.
Yeah. As the people who stayed in the living room watched and your time ran out, they're like, come back. It's back on.
Right.
Running through the
house. Let me know
house.
what happens. What did they say? What did they do?
Mm-hmm.
As if it was that consequential.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's completely different now.
Now we just there was no pause button, there was no recording. And then even when you started, like when a VCR came out, it was you had to program the VCR and you had to make sure that there was enough space on the tape. And and if your brother wanted to record the A-Team the same time that you wanted to record, like, what shows did we watch? What shows did we watch back then? Rags to Riches. Did you ever watch that show?
Yep, of course.
Right? So it's like if you and your brother wanted to watch something at the same that's not good,
What were some of your favorite shows that stick out in your mind?
Okay, so certainly Cheers.
Mm-hmm.
80s or 90s?
It doesn't matter. It's at this point just growing up. What?
Oh gosh, growing up. So if I go back, it was Mork and Mindy. I remember I absolutely loved that show.
I had the suspenders and the pins.
I don't know what it was about it. Just I think it was the the differentness, and my
Yeah.
grandmother hated it. We lived with my grandmother, and she'd say, "Oh, honey, turn on whatever you want." And I'd turn on Mork and Mindy, and she'd be like, "I hate this idiot. He's an idiot. He's on coke. Do you know that he's on coke?" What's coke?
Yeah. Again, another one
and
of
then
those.
and then she would watch MASH, and I'm like, I hate all this death and destruction, and I'm sure none
Yeah.
of them are on coke.
For real though. I mean, not for nothing, but I kind of feel like the late 70s and at least the early 80s, pretty much anyone in entertainment, you can just assume they were on coke.
Basically, yeah. Basically,
Like,
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, there were so many different, the A Team was
Mhm.
fantastic. And then on flip side of that, it was Charlie's Angels,
Oh yeah.
and you know
Magnum PI for me, Tom Selleck was one of my first crushes for sure.
Oh, really?
I don't know if it was like the mustache or like the white man fro or like the
For me, it was
confidence.
the car. I wanted his
Oh yeah,
car.
his car was gorgeous,
Kit,
wasn't it?
right?
Oh,
Kit.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. I like, I'm not musical, but like the whole thing, the theme song for that, the
Yes.
Kit. Oh,
Yes, yes, yes. Knight Rider is definitely like the car was gorgeous at the time when I was
yeah.
little. I thought David Hasselhoff was gorgeous. Now,
He
now I'm
really
sad.
was. He
He
really
was
was. Like,
right
that
at
was
that
a
time.
fantastic show. Yeah.
Yes, and for like little kids who were just like realizing that like other people are very attractive, like David Hasselhoff, I was like, yeah, he's
Of
awesome.
course. Of course.
Look
And
how
then he
cool he
parlayed
is.
into Baywatch, and it's like, who didn't? And that came out of everyone from Charles in Charge.
Funny that you brought up the Baywatch and Charles in Charge because I'm not even kidding you. In my notes, I was like, had a girl crush so hard on Nicole and like Eggert there. And then she went to
Oh, yeah.
Baywatch. And then she was just like, I don't know. I kind of like felt like she was so awkward because like she was like next to like Pamela Anderson, and here she is like
Yeah.
this like, gorgeous natural girl, and then there's like all this everything around her, and I'm like, no, go back to Charles. Go back to Charles.
I know,
She was,
exactly.
I loved her style
Yeah.
so much.
Like, there's
Yeah.
there's there's so much gorgeous in just natural beauty,
Mm-hmm.
you
Even
know?
Pamela, even sticking on the Pamela Anderson thing, have you ever seen pictures of her before she got all of her work done?
Oh, I mean, there's a reason she got her contract. She was gorgeous. She
She
was
was
absolutely gorgeous. And,
gorgeous.
I see this thing going on TikTok where they take like really cute people, like you and me, for example,
Mhm.
and then they put on this supermodel filter, and it's like, look at how gorgeous we are to begin with.
Oh
And
yeah,
then, oh, holy shit, supermodel.
yeah,
Dang,
yeah,
dang, and it's like, well, wait a second. I was cute to begin with,
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
know? I didn't
Yes,
need
I've
a
seen that too.
V-shaped chin and those extra full lips. And,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'll tell you, I, um, I went to the doctor yesterday, as you and I discussed,
Yeah,
and it came out with me being a really healthy person. And all around, they were like, this is a healthy person who takes good care of herself.
yeah.
And it's like, well, wow, thank you. I'm certainly not perfect. My weight isn't perfect.
Oh, you're
I,
gorgeous.
well, thank you. And so are you. But it's just like, it's the whole thing that none of us are perfect, and no one is perfect all the time. And you
But
drink diet soda, you drink wine, you eat fried food, you do whatever
mhm,
you want to do. You eat your edibles, you do
mhm,
whatever you want to do, and you do it in moderation, and you just take care of yourself,
yep,
and it's
yeah,
okay. Like, there's all
yep.
these expectations about what you're supposed to
Oh
be,
yeah,
and what healthy is supposed to look like, and what normal is supposed to look like.
yep. And what beautiful is now, and I think that that did start back when we were kids about that
Yeah.
expectation that, that expectation that normal people, it's not normal either. You know, there's very few people that are birthed out, you know, Instagram ready
Well,
as
and
people
right,
now
and like,
would think of
and
it.
what does that even mean, right? You know,
Exactly. That's what I mean. Like the Instagram ready as people think of it now because we have been just, you know, inundated with this perfection for decades that is just not
for
obtainable.
decades, for absolute
Decades.
decades, and that we
Hmm.
haven't, that if a person doesn't fit this certain mold, you know, can't
Hmm.
climb the trees that we can climb or take the tests that we can take,
Yep.
that they're somehow not worthy.
Yep.
And I'm hoping that we're now finding that these people have incredible abilities, and if we
Hmm.
just step back, you know, and allow people to be who they're going to be, and allow people
Oh yeah.
to blossom as they're meant to blossom, that they can do really incredible things in this world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's weird how much we put on visually, you know? Like
Oh yeah,
it's I don't know. I feel really bad for the
visually and
kids
also
these
on
days.
paper, like we need statistics.
Mhm. Oh
You know,
yeah.
no, I need to record how you're doing on this. Well, what if my metric is not something that you're able to comprehend?
Right, right. Oh yeah, I think about this all the time. I've thought about this for years because I'm like, man, on paper, I'm horrible.
I
I'm just
know.
I'm like
No, I
I'm
don't mean
such a
that you're
trash
horrible. I
bag.
don't mean I know. I mean, like, right?
No, but it's true. And it's like I've had this conversation before and I'm like, man, I'm like, you know, I don't think I'm like worthless or like horrible or like that I've done like really horrible thing. Yes, I have, you know, a past and I've lived a life, but like, oh my goodness, you write me down and it's just it's so
It's
sad.
so, I know, I know. It's only, you know, it's only recently that I've come to understand the concept of looking back at your younger self and just
Mm-hmm.
hugging that person and loving that person.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
oh my goodness, if I could see my 16-year-old self, I would just hug the shit out of her.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
You
Give
know what
her
I
the
mean?
love that you need.
And be like, honey, you are so much better than you even know. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I wonder if it's because, you know, we are the ages that we are. Like
Probably that we're
you
30
know,
years beyond it.
yeah, yeah, you know, like is it because we're like I don't know, because like, you know, growing up, it was like 50 is over the hill. You know what I mean? Like that was in, especially because, you know, Rose and I worked, bringing it back to her again. But like
Right.
we worked at Spencer's for so long and like it was drilled into us that 50 is over the hill. That's it. Like 50, there is like now decorations of gravestones and like, you know,
Right. Well,
horrible
like
stuff like that.
all of our parents met when they were in college.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Rose's parents, my parents. I don't know about yours. How did
Oh
yours
yeah.
meet?
Yeah. Well, they were college age. They did not meet in college, but they met
But
through
it was
mutual friends.
right. So it's like, it's that idea that if you don't have your mate by the time you're 22,
Mm-hmm.
then, you know, you might as well just become a housekeeper.
Yeah, you're Alice.
You're Alice. Exactly. Exactly.
You're
That's
Alice, and you
it.
better hope that the butcher
That's
likes
it,
you.
you know? And it's like, you know, I went to college, and I think that my degree has helped me in very different ways than expected. I think that I
Mhm.
learned a lot about human nature as opposed to how to have a job.
Right, right. Yeah.
Um, but my education has served me well in life. But
Yeah, well,
that's
it
only
opens doors. I
it's
feel
yeah,
like
but only because my parents paid for it, and it was my
right,
parents said, no, you're doing this, and here's the money, and you're going, and you don't have a choice.
right.
You know, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going, you
Yeah,
know, here I go. And it was great, and I'm happy I did it, but it's like, I can't say that I'm going to spend $200,000 on my son to go just have a good experience.
right, right. Yeah, no, I hear you. I
You know,
absolutely
it's,
agree.
I mean, I think that when we were kids, it was this whole college track and this whole thing of like, if you don't have a degree, if you don't go to college, then you're not going to get anywhere.
Well, yeah, and it comes down to we were sold a dream. You know what
We
I mean?
sure were. Yeah, we were.
Yeah, it was like if you follow this path that we give
Yeah.
you, and
Yeah.
if you do the things that are lined up for you,
You
the
do as
way,
you're told,
yeah,
and you be the good
hmm
child that they
hmm
expect you to be.
then you will have the house with the picket fence and the 2.5 kids. And
Of
you will be happy,
course.
and your wife will work, and she will
Right?
make you your food, and she will give you a blowjob at the end of the day.
Sadly, they didn't tell us about endometriosis and the ability to have 2.5 children.
Yeah. Oh, don't even get me started on the medical part of
Oh, I
what
won't.
they
That is
didn't
a
tell
separate
us.
episode. We will have a separate
Yeah,
episode
because
medical
yeah, women
rigmarole.
weren't even. Let me just rant this out because it just is so upsetting. Like women weren't
Yeah.
even considered in studies in the DMS until 1994. So just like how
Oh, I know.
disturbing
I
is that?
know. No, I
Like
know.
I
I told
can't.
my therapist that lately. I told my therapist that. I'm like, I think I need to get diagnosed with ADHD. She said, why? I'm like, for my sanity.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, what will it do for you? I'm like, I don't know. I can hold up a piece of paper and say, see, I do make sense,
Yes.
to
Yes.
everyone who told
Yes.
me that I didn't. And it's not that I
Absolutely.
want medication or anything like that,
Yeah.
but it's just like suddenly my place in this world makes sense. And
Yes. Oh
and
yes.
I'm not just, yeah, you get what
Yep.
I'm saying. It's not
Absolutely.
just,
100%.
yeah.
Because
Uh,
we've lived in our lives so long being told that there is nothing different medically or a reason for us to be different, that we are just weirdos or we do things wrong
yeah.
for so long. It
So
just
I can tell you that my mother from an early age was she was open to diversity, and she
Mhm,
tried to, she was an ESL teacher. She taught a lot of the refugees who came over from the Vietnam War. She
mhm.
taught a lot of those children how to speak English. And I think that she really did try to give me
Yeah.
a diverse upbringing. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, I don't have different color skin, and I really don't think I like women. I just don't know
Right.
what's different about me. Like I'm trying, like, and I kept knowing that I was different, and I couldn't figure it out. And like
Right.
and my mother like tried to show me that there's differences amongst all people, but neurodiversity and neurospiciness, it was not a thing. It just
Nope.
wasn't a thing. And the whole
No.
concept that a girl could have ADHD
Oh
was
yeah.
off the
Oh
charts.
yeah.
It was off the
Well,
chart. Like you really had to be bad to get
like, and
diagnosed.
I mean, like, it was when it I know when we were younger, it was just not even thought that girls, for the most part, could even have it. We weren't
Right.
considered for autism, for ADHD, for all of
For
these things.
none of
It
it.
was just like, and all because girls present different, and our hormones, both in male and female, do different things to a spicy brain.
Yep.
It's amazing to me. And there's a lot of controversy on the whole, late diagnosis and how many people, because the number of
Mm,
people who are getting diagnosed in the last few years is staggering in our
yeah.
age group. It's staggering. And people make a joke out of it. And it's like, you know what, buddy? Like, it's not a joke though. The fact is we keep learning and evolving in what we know, and now we know more, and because we know more people fit into this category, and that's
Exactly.
not a bad
Exactly.
thing. It just means, and it's like you said, it's like you found your place in life, and it's like, yeah, same. Like now I know it's not that, like, I'm crazy, or, I do things badly, or,
Right. There's something
other.
wrong. I'm stupid. I have a low
Yeah,
IQ. There's something
yeah,
wrong with me. I mean,
right.
my brother had me afraid of everything. My older
Right.
brother didn't want me following him around.
Mm-hmm.
So he had me convinced there were monsters hiding everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere. And it cracked him up as a kid, and he totally controlled me.
Right.
And that's something to reckon with as an adult, is like, okay, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of, but the fact that I wouldn't allow my mother to drive down certain roads because I was so terrified of that road,
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, but
it's
that's the spicy brain and the way that it protects and
yeah.
it works itself. I did the same thing, and this is embarrassing, but I did the same thing with Nightmare on Elm Street. So I
I
saw.
couldn't even watch those. I couldn't
Right,
even
no,
watch
me.
them.
Okay, so me neither. I am not in any a horror type person, although there are certain things that are classified as horror that I love. But so yeah, I don't know. So I was at a sleepover. I think it was like fourth grade. I'm trying to think of like where I was,
And you watched Nightmare on Elm
and
Street?
well, see, here's the thing. Her mother, my friend at the time, my best friend in elementary school, her mother worked at night. I don't even really know what she did. I think she was a bartender, but I don't know. Um, but she would work at night, and my friend was the youngest of three, and her older siblings were both boys. And
Okay,
so
that makes sense.
yeah.
Yep.
So like one of her brothers was in high school, another brother was in junior high, and then here we were in fourth grade. There was no adult supervision. And they were like,
Oh.
"Hey, why don't we watch this movie?" So we watched the movie. I think I saw maybe like a total of 40 minutes of it through my hands. And yeah, like it was so bad. And I'm not
Like,
like
can we watch Goonies instead,
like
please?
for real. We okay, normally at this girl's house we would watch stuff like Weird Science, but her
Okay,
brothers,
all right.
yeah, like Better Off Dead, stuff like that. It was a good time, but her brothers had friends over, so it was
Ugh.
chaos. And like
I've
I'm
heard about things like that before. Yeah.
yeah, it was fun, but it was chaos. And when I tell you that my spicy brain took that movie so seriously, that so I'm saying like fourth grade, so I was like 8 or 9 years old, right? And I had to have someone every single night that I went to bed say sweet dreams to me, or I wouldn't sleep.
Yeah. 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 Did you
It was
did you ever
bad.
hear about me with arachnophobia?
No.
Oh my goodness. The family still makes fun of me. So Rose and I went to see it in the summer down on the Cape. We went to
Did you
see
get did you get
Arachnophobia.
did you get duped that it was a comedy from the trailer that they used to play?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I mean, I remember the people around me being irritated with me because I was
Right.
so scared. And I'm like, make the spiders stop jumping. Make them stop. Make them stop. And then that night, my poor mother had to put like cold compresses on me all night long because all I could feel was spiders crawling on
Oh
my body.
no. How do you do with spiders now?
I'm fine. I'm
Um,
perfectly fine because
okay,
I've
well,
rationalized. It's fine. I get
okay,
it.
well that's good. That's
I
good. I can
get
take
it.
baths. I can take baths now too and go to sleep without anyone saying anything. Um, did Rose's mom send you the message about the spider?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. In the nose. Spider
Yeah.
in the nose.
Yeah. As you're talking about her and arachnophobia and your fear of the movie, all I could think of was that story.
No,
I'm like,
that's
oh God.
yes.
Oh, she's
Oh my
been so much. But
she's what?
let's
Yeah,
see.
oh, yeah, she has. But that's a different episode. So wait, where is this? Okay, so here's something. Here, tangent.
Okay.
Saturday Night Live
Mm-hmm.
and The Simpsons have
Oh,
gone on for decades.
yes. Yes,
Why?
they have.
Why?
Um,
And then
why?
also Full House. Full House, while it
I have
hasn't
them on my
gone
list
on
too.
for decades, people love that.
Okay, yeah, okay. So, SNL and The Simpsons, I think they've been on for so long. I think the why with that is that just life is comical, and the world and the society we live in is so absurd that we have to have comedy to laugh about it. Like
Well, I
it's
mean
just
that's true, but what is it about these shows and SNL? You know, they change up their comedians, but
yeah,
there
that
aren't
I think
many shows who have been on for so many decades that
I
have managed to change with times.
yeah. Yeah, I do think with SNL that it is that they stay fresh and relevant, whether you agree with their humor or not. They stay fresh and relevant because they do change their cast from time to time.
Yeah.
And also they're, I mean, it's like it's a live comedy show. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like they're taking from exactly what we're experiencing right now. The Simpsons is a little different, I feel like, because they don't have that cast change so much, or where they do change their characters, it's a
Yeah.
lot, it's a lot subtler. I just think, I don't know, there's something about that show and that family that just resonates with the average majority American. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, not everyone's, a bald buffoon who isn't great at his job, who drinks too much. But we all do have our, quirks and our things and, the jobs that we aren't great at or don't love. Um, but at the end of the day, it's like Homer and Marge and the kids, they all truly, truly love each other. And at the end, it's always about the family. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? No matter
Yeah.
what they do, because we as Americans, humans, but definitely us
But
Americans,
Americans too, yeah.
we're flawed. We are flawed. Humans are flawed in general,
Yeah.
but you know, this country
It's
has a lot going on. So,
Oh, it sure does. And which is why it's so interesting to me that The Simpsons have been relatable for so long. You
mhm.
know,
Yeah,
that this family,
yeah.
it really hasn't changed. The father,
Well,
the
because
mother, like nothing
that's
has changed.
right, and I think
Yet
that's
they
an
remain relatable.
Right. And I think that's an a testament to the writers that they are so good at, even in the success of the show, which with that, brings success and fame and all that stuff, they still stay pretty true to, what Joe Schmo on the next block thinks and
Right.
what they're going through and what they think is funny. So I don't know. It's a good show.
They
Sometimes
poke fun at everyone in an
mhm.
effective way that
Yes.
offends everyone and no one at the same time.
Yes. Yes, which
Yeah.
is beautiful because everyone deserves it.
Yeah.
We all deserve it. And okay, so you said something about Full House, and I thought that was interesting too because I have this in here. Um Full House the original started in 1987. So the kids were our ages,
Yeah.
especially DJ
DJ was, yeah.
was
Yep.
our was us. That
Yep.
that was which is
But
interesting.
please
And
don't
then
confuse us with Candace Cameron.
oh, please do not be and that was I was gonna say
If you take what we don't know about DJ now, and if
yes,
you put it
yes.
back to 1987,
Yeah, it was
know,
it was
we
just great
loved it.
to see a family that was an interesting setup. First of all, it wasn't the cookie cutter, mom's working and dad's kind of goofy, but he likes his beer. You know what I
I know,
mean?
but if mom isn't working, she has to be dead. What's up with
Yes,
that?
and that in general throughout entertainment, both TV,
Right?
movies, and
Disney,
um,
yeah,
books, everyone. The
yeah,
the
everywhere.
yeah, the dead mom is definitely a trope, So, but it was cool because, they brought in, the Uncle Jesse and the friend to help raise these kids.
Yeah.
And a lot of the subject matter, even though it's kind of a corny show, if you look at it,
Oh,
a
it's a
lot
super corny show,
of,
but
yeah,
somehow it's just gone on and on and on, and
right.
everyone loves it. It's
Well,
not
because
getting old.
it did, even at the time, like, it did bring up subject matter that wasn't, I guess, normally spoken of with our families, because, Gen X parents were kind of like, therapy isn't a thing. We don't talk about our feelings.
Oh,
And
we
then,
didn't have mental illness back then. What are you
yeah,
talking about?
yeah, yeah, so it's like,
It's a
as
new
kids,
thing.
right. And like, I think as kids, to see other kids our age that we could relate to going through things, it helped us too when their parents gave them whatever advice. You know what I
Right.
mean?
I mean,
So
that's
that's
true,
sort of
but if you think about it, it's like one person for every child,
right. Yeah.
right? You know,
Yep.
so and we didn't have that.
No. 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 Our generation had TV. That's where we got our parenting from the parents on TV.
I mean, to a certain extent, if you were allowed to watch TV, if you had a TV in your house, the only TV I had was in my parents' bedroom. We never had cable until
Oh,
my parents got divorced.
okay, so that's a thing. We only had one TV, no cable, but it was in the
Yeah.
living room.
No, mine was in my parents' bedroom. So any TV show that I wanted to watch, I was up sitting on my parents' bed with my parents watching a TV show with them.
Oh, so that makes your Saturday mornings definitely different.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. In that case, my grandmother was still alive, and the Saturday mornings were in her bedroom.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Oh, that's nice. That's kind of nice though.
But it also changes so that was the morning. I mean, gosh, so my house was my family, mom, dad, me and my brother, and my grandmother
Mm-hmm.
until probably like 1986 or 1987.
Oh, okay.
And I think we definitely did have entertainment downstairs.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Um, I remember like my dad getting the VCR. I remember him getting the
Mm-hmm.
first CD player.
Mm-hmm.
But
Which
once they,
the big VCR was a big deal, I think, for
oh, that
everyone.
was huge. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't honestly, I don't really remember all of it,
Yeah.
but I remember when my parents split up, and I remember like when the whole family split happened.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom really hated having a TV in the living room. She wanted the living room to be a place where people meet and chat and enjoy each other's company, and she did
Right.
not want electronics in the room.
Okay. I get that.
I get
I
it
get
too.
that.
In the 80s, I did not. In the 90s,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did not. Right? That was not. Yeah, I didn't get it back then. Now
Yeah,
I
no,
get
I
it.
get it. I wouldn't have been happy about it either, but I do get it.
Right. So the
Yeah.
TV went up to my mom's bedroom.
Hmm.
And it was kind of like, for a single mom in the 80s who was all of a sudden a situation where she wasn't intending to be in the situation, and she has two kids and she doesn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's a bad
No.
solution. You know
No,
what?
not at
I'm
all.
going to keep the TV in my bedroom, and when the kids want to watch TV, I'll
Yep.
sit here next to them and I'll watch it with them.
Yep. No, that's
It's
definitely
not
not
a
a bad
bad
thing.
solution.
Nope,
So,
not at all. No, not at all. Do
yeah.
you remember growing up with TV that we would have like the Sunday night movies, like TV movies? Like they had like a Disney one, there was like an ABC one where
I
they
do
would
remember that. Yeah, I
oh,
can't say that we really watched them. I don't think that my family participated in that, but I do remember
and we used to
that.
have a lot of mini series. Now they call them
Yeah.
now on streaming services they're called like limited series, but back in the day they were mini series, and
Yeah.
they would play for like 3-4 nights in a row, or they'd play a couple in a row, and then a day would skip and they'd play the last two or whatever.
I
And
mean, honestly, I probably wasn't allowed to watch that. It was probably content that my mother didn't want me seeing. But
well,
I do
what
remember the after school specials.
Oh yes, those of course were amazing. Now
Yeah.
now I think about them, they were also super cheesy. But
I mean, they were, but that was what was supposed to teach us. I mean,
mhm.
I don't know about everything, right?
I mean
Just so
literally
you
everything.
know. Yeah. That
Yeah.
that star flying across the TV
Mhm.
screen. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. It was like it's interesting because I feel like that was another parenting thing, like the taking over, the parenting that wasn't happening. Oh, well, we'll just give them some TV show for after school, and we'll teach them about whatever it be, being bullying or drugs, or
Yeah,
being
and just hope that it all works out.
yeah, yeah. It should be fine. They'll
Yeah.
be fine.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Don't worry
Yeah,
about it. Don't worry
it's
about it.
cool. It's
And
cool.
and now they complain about giving us therapy as adults.
Hmm.
So, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
I
but
know.
I mean, therapy wasn't a thing back when they were kids, and I think about, or when they were growing up, or really any time. Like, I know it's got to be hard. I think about it because I don't like how my parents look at therapy. They were never, I joined a group therapy in high school, and it was not looked at very well. It was more of a, well, that makes you dwell on the things that you're sad about. And
Yeah.
it just, like, it's upsetting, but like at the same time it just makes me sad for the past generations, because that's a lot of trauma that all these people just stuffed down and didn't even
I mean it,
acknowledge.
it it really is. And even, we're in our 40s now. And
Mhm.
I'm admitting things to my mother now that I was
Yes.
not able to admit to her before.
Yep.
And it's powerful, and my mother is very willing to hear what I have to say, and she's
Mhm.
accepting of what I have to say. But I could never imagine saying these things to her 20, 30 years ago.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just, I mean it's really wild to think about how things could go differently,
Yeah.
the choices that you make, the paths that you take, the paths that are
Mhm.
available to you.
Yep. 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 Nostalgia's weird, isn't it?
It really, really is. And I wish that I could be there. I haven't said this to you yet. I wish that I could hug you too hard and too
Oh,
long.
me too. Me too. We're gonna have to make plans for real.
I mean,
Because
yeah,
I mean, we're not that far.
we're really not. We're really not. We're
So
really
we will.
not.
Well, we'll have to like do an episode and record live together.
That would be so much fun. Like on the beach somewhere. Where would we do
Mhm.
this? I think
I
that it
don't.
would have to be like a beach that no one goes to.
And somewhere we could bring some wine.
Oh, honey, I'll bring a couple boxes.
That would be an interesting show.
Wine will not be a question. Wine will not be a question. But yeah, I mean, it would be so much fun just to, shoot, my beach, right? Like mine and
Yeah.
Rose's beach. That,
Yeah.
it's a private beach that we just like chill out on. There's no one else there.
Yeah. No, we should make plans for sometime this summer coming up, and we'll come up and visit you guys.
I would love that. I would
Yeah.
love that. Absolutely
Yeah.
love that. You are more than welcome at my house anytime.
That would be so fun. We'll pretend we're young until we realize we aren't.
We will go until our bodies give out.
We'll have to record a bunch of it so we can give it to Rose.
Oh my God, that would be hilarious.
We could just periscope her the entire visit. She wouldn't know what to do with us.
Oh, I think she knows what she's into. She knows.
Yeah. Just laugh and shake her head at us.
She'd be like, "Yep, that's them."
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So, are there any other shows that you were,
I don't know. I mean, okay, so I will write down. So I wrote down everything that I was thinking of, and let me see if there's anything that we haven't talked about. In Living Color is something we have not talked about.
Yes. Oh, that was such a revolutionary show. Can I just say, like, just quickly, like, what the dancers on there were phenomenal, and
J-Lo. That was
J-
J-Lo's debut.
Right. And J-Lo was there, and then there was an Asian girl on there, and I was like, look at these tan brownish girls. Like, yes, thank you more. Like, it was
you
amazing.
saw yourself.
I did, and it was so great. And then, of course, the whole show was just hilarious. I still say 2 snaps in a circle, and homie don't play that, because homie doesn't play that.
That was such an impactful show.
Oh yeah, and it gave us Jim Carrey, so that's fun too.
Fireman Jim, was that his name?
Yeah. What? Oh, Fire Marshal Bill.
Fireman Jim, whatever.
Close enough. That's close enough. Listen, how long ago was it? We're lucky we remember any. I walk into rooms and forget what's happening. I look for my phone and it's in my hand. So
right. Oh, honey, I know. I'm talking on my phone and I'm looking for my phone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Same.
So
Absolutely.
Fire Marshal Bill. I know that show. Jim Carrey and it gave us the Wayans brothers.
Yes, and Jamie Foxx.
Such a fantastic show.
Yep.
Fantastic show.
Yep.
That's something that needs to come back. I know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many. You can go on and on about.
Oh, absolutely.
And I have a million things written down, but it's like.
I know, this is how I go into these shows too, especially because, like, when I do my solo shows, I have a pretty solid outline and, some of the parts scripted out. But for my guest calls, I just kind of, I have some notes of things that my squirrel brain has decided to scribble down. And then when I'm talking to people, it's just like my brain and my eyeballs do not connect.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, honestly, I would say that 2 of the biggest impactful shows were Cheers and the Cosby Show.
Yes,
and the Cosby Show is not something that's cool to talk about these days.
Yes,
which is,
Yes. And I was going to say that too. It's really sad because our generation, especially like the latter part of Gen X and the ones that are considered Zennials and then the older millennials, the Cosby Show was huge.
We absolutely loved him. Like he was America's dad.
I mean, and he was on the Cosby Show. He was on Fat Albert, and he did the little magic pen thing that went.
Oh my God, Fat Albert!
Yes.
What did they yell? What?
I don't know. I just know he would go, hey, hey, hey.
Is that what they yelled?
and so like Bill Cosby, right? Like he was, when we were super little, it was Fat Albert. Then it was the Cosby Show. In between all of this, there was the pudding pops, which were delicious, and they should bring them back. Thank you very much.
Can you see him squirming right now with that deliciousness?
Like I just, and it's just
so. And why does that make him bad. Like, it's really, really sad that memory is supposed to,
and it's like because he was a bad person. He did bad things, and I don't like him, and I don't. But that does not take away from the experience as a child. You know what I
right.
mean? Like,
And how
there was,
and how do you reconcile that? Like, that's something that's
I
a little bit squirrely.
I don't. I actually don't reconcile with it. I love and hate him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, my
Are we
baby
allowed
brain.
to do both?
Yes.
Okay.
I am a firm believer in duality, and like I would never,
So
you know,
you love him for what he gave to us, but you hate him for what he did to other people.
yeah, and yes, and like I wouldn't go buy his merchandise, or I wouldn't stand up for his name, or suggest people
No.
go and like hang out with him, or like
No.
whatever. But at
But
the
is it
same
bad that
time,
I say that I liked the Cosby Show when I was a kid? Am
no,
I not
see,
allowed to say that
and that's
anymore?
no, because isn't that rewriting your experience in history if you say that that wasn't an enjoyable part of
Well,
your
that's
life growing
exactly it.
up?
Yeah. I
So
loved
like
him.
I'm not a person that believes in rewriting things to make other people comfortable. Again, I'm not an advocate for him. I think he's a scumbag.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like that doesn't take away from the impact that what he was involved with had on me and others growing up. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
like
Well, and
I would
also there's the whole idea of what, Lisa Bonet was talking about with him, that um she had issues with him from the beginning,
mm-hmm.
and that's why she went off to do A Different World,
Yeah.
and
Which is an amazing show too. I've been rewatching that one because I love that and I love her.
she's great. She's fantastic.
She's amazing. But
Yep.
yeah, it's hard, especially because here's the thing. Um, it's hard because we grew up in a time that was full of toxicity and indulgence. And that toxicity and indulgence was almost the goal for people. So when, people fall from grace or things come up from the past, I'm never surprised. Never. Like, so they bring this stuff up about, Steven Tyler recently, that he had dated a 17-year-old, back in the 90s when he was like 28 or something like that. I don't
I mean,
remember
I'd be shocked
specifically.
if he didn't.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think people understand how the 70s, 80s, and 90s were. It
Right.
wasn't a time that was politically correct in any way, shape, or form. And anything that presented it still was just covering up how the reality of what we were living in was. Because if you were a superstar, and I mean a superstar in
Yeah,
any
no,
sense of the
I
word,
agree. I agree with everything you're saying. I really do. And I'm sorry to cut you off there, but it's true what you're saying,
mhm,
that the things that are coming up nowadays of people saying, "Oh, you abused a minor in this," it's
you are a bad
no,
person
that's
for doing
that,
that.
huh?
Like I still want, and I want the audience and anyone listening to this, we still believe that you are a bad person if you were with a minor, if you drugged women, if you
100%.
violated people in any way, shape, or form, you are the piece of shit. You are the bad guy. We are in no way condoning that. But what we are saying is, in that time, the time that we grew up, in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, there was a certain way that people were.
There
And
really was. Yeah. And
and
yeah.
yeah, and being very masculinely toxic very sexual, drugs, drinking, all of it. It was the epitome of the time. This was, and if you were a superstar or a star in any way, shape, or form, that meant you got to play in that proverbial playground.
It
Like,
really is, you know, and to throw that back on someone nowadays who was a young person back in the 70s, and to call that back on them, it's okay. Yes, they need to apologize, but
yeah,
you know, you
yeah.
look at Dazed and Confused, you know,
Mhm.
like I
Oh
just love
yes,
that. You know, what did Matthew McConaughey say? You know,
yeah.
I
I
stay
get
the same
older.
age, they get
Yes,
younger.
yeah.
You
And
know?
here the thing with that, it's just like, that was a 90s movie. That was a perfectly acceptable line to this
100%.
day. Like, even
Yep.
to this day, I still see that line that,
Right.
he gets
And I
older,
did
they
it
stay
wrong.
the
Say
same
it
age.
right. Say the
Yeah,
line right.
he says, I get older, they stay the same age.
Okay.
And
Yep.
like, it's still said in a positive light now, which and I've already said on the show, I adore. It's one of my very favorite movies, but
Yep.
that
It's a great
shows,
movie.
yeah, but it just shows how it was and where
Yep.
we were. So all
Yep.
this stuff that's coming up, again, not an excuse, but none of it is a surprise. And some of it, especially like, and again, Bill Cosby, trash, man is trash. But like Steven Tyler, now I don't know the whole thing because I didn't dive into it, but from what I gathered, it was a 17-year-old when he was in his late 20s. She was a groupie. The only thing I can think, and I understand because I'm a 40-something-year-old woman at this point who has children, who has a daughter, like 17 is not old enough to make decisions, right? They're not
Right.
that you are not, even if you think it. But with that, we did think it. When I was 17, if Steven Tyler had come up to me and was like, hey, baby, I would have been like, yes, sir, please, and
Yep.
thank you. You know
Bye,
what I mean? Like,
Mom.
yeah, like there wasn't like, it was a normal thing. I can't, like, being 17 in the 80s and 90s, and I'm sure in the 70s, was, you were already a piece of sexual being. You already, like, even if you weren't having sex, you were already sexualized and looked at as a
Right.
sexual being,
And
even
if you
probably
weren't, you
early.
were trying to be.
Yes, so it's just like, I have really mixed feelings. I have such mixed feelings about all of this because, like, if I was a groupie at that age, sure. Any of those concerts I went to in high school, if I had gotten backstage, oh yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's difficult.
I mean, absolutely. Did you watch? So this wasn't even written down, but Almost Famous.
Oh yes, yes. Penny. Yes. Penny
Right?
Lane. Yep.
Penny Lane.
Yep.
Penny
And
Lane.
and
And
I
that's like
believe
that. Yeah.
it doesn't she in there make some sort of speech to the lead character about not feeling bad for her because of the life that she chooses to lead. I might be remembering that wrong. But as a groupie, like, groupies chose to be groupies. I'm not saying that bad things didn't happen to anyone. I'm just saying if it was like, X amount of years ago, I don't know. It's a
I
complicated
don't know,
situation.
but even if you choose to be a groupie, that doesn't mean that you chose to be sexually assaulted. You
Oh
know,
no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm
it's
not
no.
you
Oh, honey, I know that you're not saying that. I know
yeah.
that you're not saying that. Trust me. Um, but what I'm saying is that it seems that whenever women, especially, or people who don't fit the mold,
Mm-hmm.
choose to walk down a different path, they are subject towards abuse, and then the
Absolutely.
abuse becomes less, what's the word I'm looking for, less honored,
Mm.
right? Like, I'm not
Right.
going to honor the abuse you suffered because of the life that you chose.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
that's not okay.
Because
That's
the
not
abuse, yeah,
okay.
the abuse is then excused. It's the old adage of, well, what was she wearing?
Exactly. And it becomes victim blaming,
Oh yeah.
and it's, yeah. And
Again,
and none of that is okay in any measure whatsoever.
right. Yep. No, absolutely. And again, at 17, the girl was 17. Your brain is not fully developed. The part of your frontal lobe where it tells you,
Your brain isn't
consequences.
fully developed until you're
25.
25 years old.
25. Yep.
25. So why are we
25.
allowing children at 18 years old?
Oh, that's a whole thing. Like,
Right?
18 years
Yeah,
old,
you
now
might.
all of a sudden they're adults. Now they can go, fight in a war. They can make all these decisions when the part of their brain that literally tells them, how to deal with consequences, what consequences are, how to make rational decisions isn't even
Hmm.
fully developed.
It's
It's
not
just,
fully
oh,
developed. Hmm.
it's so upsetting, which,
Hmm.
again, brings me back to the whole Steven Tyler thing. Bad on him. She was 17. She didn't know. She didn't understand. So I understand the backlash there. But
Right.
also at the same time, I also know that at 17, if I was presented the situation that she was presented, I would have also gladly gone. You know what I mean?
Okay, so I don't know the story. You'll have to send that to me. But at 17,
Mhm.
I went to college.
Yeah. So you were on your own.
Bye bye.
Yeah, I ran away from home at 17. So,
Right? Like,
you know,
hello. And so, like,
I,
you and I were like, whoop, whoop, whoop. Like, okay, we're doing the best we can with what we got. And we're just,
Mhm.
and I mean, shit. Like, why aren't we realizing that? Hey, so kids don't develop until they're 25. So why aren't we pushing it towards 25?
That's, yeah, everything should be. You can't rent a car because of this, because you are not
Until
fully
you're
developed
25.
until you're
Exactly.
25. But
Exactly.
everything else, you can be charged as an adult, no matter what the
Oh,
crime
shit.
is.
You can be
Like,
charged an adult at 14,
yeah,
depending on what
which
you
is
do.
insane to me. And I understand that some of the things are like so heinous that it should have a bad consequence, but it's still a child. I don't can't or I
I know.
can't take it. It makes
I
my
am
blood
so
boil.
right there with you. I am so 100% there. We don't even need to go there.
Yeah, it's just weird. I just find it really weird about just how different it was back then. It's like bringing it back to where I think this squirrel tangent went from, was the Bill Cosby thing. Was the Cosby show. um but yeah, I do, I think that it's hard being in our age group right now, not only because of everything and the awareness and the discussions that are happening and the fighting back on both ways to progress and anti-progression,
Yeah.
that's going on right now, while we are all in our middle-aged time, that we're looking at life differently. um but I think that our generation really had it a little bit harder because of the entertainment that we were shown, because of the world that we were presented, that everyone in Hollywood thought we should live in. You know what I mean?
It's very true. I mean, we were given a very linear path towards entertainment.
Mhm.
And this is what you should think, and this is what you should do.
Mhm.
And
Well, that's backfired on them, huh? Looking I think about it, like, I look back now, however many decades that we're at this point, through all the different things that we've had pumped at us, and, like, all their plans have really kind of backfired. I
I
don't
mean,
think
yeah, to a certain extent, they certainly have. I mean, we're not fitting into these molds that we expected us
mm-mm,
that they expected us to fit into.
absolutely not. Which, thank goodness. But also, of course, because we're Gen X and, you know,
That's
we're,
right. We're
we're,
not what you expect.
nope, nope, we're gonna fight tooth and nail. We don't know what we're fighting
Yeah.
sometimes, but we're gonna fight it.
I think we don't know what we're fighting most times.
Right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I agree. And so I just wanted to bring up one last show,
Sure.
um, 21 Jump Street. So,
That was something that I never watched a whole lot, but I remember
really?
yeah, but I remember that the cool kids
Yeah.
watched it.
Oh, oh, I must have been a cool kid,
You were
unbeknownst to
so
me.
cool.
Yeah, right.
I could
But
have
yeah,
told you that at the beginning of this episode.
oh God, yeah, I wish. But yeah, so 21 Jump Street came out in 1987, so that's again like fifth grade. Three things really stuck out for me with this show. First of all, Johnny Depp, like
Yeah.
we
Hello.
yeah,
Gorgeous.
yeah, and again at that age, all of a sudden noticing everyone and everything, and boy was he a thing to notice. Like,
Right? Yeah.
I loved that show, and I fell in love with him, and the whole Nightmare on Elm Street thing with him in it like was really sad because it was not good for him.
Oh no. See, I feel like I need to watch this because I feel like this was so as I was like going through all the history of these shows,
Mm-hmm.
WKRP in Cincinnati, I
Yo, yeah,
know I was
yes.
not allowed to watch that show.
Okay, I see. I only saw it at my grandparents' house, so
I was
same.
yeah, exactly. I never
Yeah,
had cable. And 21 Jump Street, I remember people talking about it. I don't know why I didn't watch it. I don't know if it was too late. I don't know if I didn't care. I don't
right.
know if it interfered with like Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune or
I mean, those are important. So,
right. So I know that 21 Jump Street is extraordinarily important to my generation. And I don't know why I never watched it. I don't
well,
know. I don't know.
10 out of 10, highly advised. Go back.
Okay.
It's cheesy. I just actually restarted it. So, I'm only a couple episodes in, but Johnny
On
Depp,
what?
okay, was
What's the platform?
I have so many different streamers. It's on a free one. It's like Tubi or something, or it might be
Oh,
Freebie.
okay.
I don't remember. But
Okay.
I'll find it. I'll send you the link. But
Okay.
so there was Johnny Depp in it, which of course was an awakening in itself.
Oh
And
my
then,
goodness.
you
Hello.
know,
Yeah, he's
yes,
gorgeous.
yes. And then I loved Holly Robinson in it. She was just amazing. But also there was Dustin Nguyen, who was a Vietnamese boy on our man on that show. And
Ooh.
as a little half Vietnamese girl, not seeing a lot other than, the Vietnamese War was really anything people ever talked about with me or around me. Um,
Right.
so, like, here was this guy. He was super cool. He had his super cool 80s hair, and he had an earring, and he hung out with that beautiful Johnny Depp and that cool ass Holly Robinson. And it was so pivotal for me. Like,
Really?
dude, let me tell you. And, I,
That is like that's I feel like that's important for me to know, right?
oh,
Like
yeah.
as
Well,
a yeah. Go,
yeah.
go,
No,
go, go, go.
so really, it was like literally like the first Vietnamese person I saw on TV that wasn't in, a death camp of some sort, or like being shot in a
Um,
jungle, or wasn't on, one of my grandparents like Paris by Night singing things. So it was
right.
like someone that was like younger, and he was hip, and he was just part of the world. And so I thought, he's Vietnamese and like whatever. So I actually, I can't believe I did this. I actually told people I was related to him
Well, of course you did. And how the hell would they know?
And like really, like no one, because he
Oh my
kind
God, I would
like,
have done the same.
like for real, like he kind of like looks semi like slightly like my father, like he could be a younger version of my father. So like
Okay.
no one questioned it except for one of my friends. Like, and then she was like, no,
Goodness.
and she was like on the playground and she's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, yes, I am. And she's like, no, you're not. And I'm just like, okay, no, I'm not. So
Oh
yeah.
my goodness. But I so get why you did that. And I bet I would have done the same exact thing. Yeah, I think that's awesome.
I was just, looking for something that made me special and like made my difference
Well,
special.
of
You know what I
course.
mean? So like,
Yeah.
oh, it's I think about it every time I think about that show or see anything for that show, and I'm like, it's so
Um,
embarrassing.
yeah,
It's so
no, it's
embarrassing.
not embarrassing. It makes so much sense. It really does.
Oh, little kids, huh?
I know. I know.
So I do see that we are quickly approaching the time when this is going to turn off and stop recording us.
All right. So clearly we need to end this episode and start our next one.
Yes. So we're gonna have to sign off for today. Thank you so much for coming on. This was so
Thank
fun.
you,
And
Emily. I love you.
I love you, Jade. I love you so much. I can't even tell you. Like seriously, like, and thank you for all of your patience with all the tech from last week with the update and then, today and like whatever. I really appreciate it. And we are going to have to plan our next episode behind the scenes.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay. All
All
right. Well,
right.
thank you again, and I love you.
I love you.
All right. Bye.
Okay, so that was an adventure, wasn't it? Welcome to what a world without Adderall or Ritalin would always sound like. And, actually, since we don't do medication in my house, basically this is how, like, every conversation goes here. And, yeah. But how fun was that? Do you feel like you took 4 shots of espresso? Because I kind of do, and I was there, so. God, I love Jade so much. But before wrapping this up, I have a few really quick thoughts and amendments to make about the conversation. Okay, so first, unrealistic beauty standards definitely didn't start in the 80s, and nor do I think they even peaked in the 80s or 90s. Just look around now at what people consider to be ideal of beauty, like between filters and apps and plastic surgery and just all the other things meant to make you look a certain way. It's a lot. However, I do believe that the 80s and 90s were when it became mainstream and widely normalized for more than just Hollywood. And I really think it was the start of looks over talent. I could talk about this more, but we're gonna save it for its own topic and its own episode. And the Steven Tyler thing was at the end of last year in December. I know it was in the presses in December of 2022. The girl at the time was 16 and he was 25. Her parents did sign consent for all of this to happen, and they dated and eventually lived together for the next 3 years, I believe it was. But I don't know. It's still super gross. I'll link the at least one of the articles in the description below. But yeah, it's super gross, and I'm making no excuses for him, and I wasn't in the conversation. I just want to make sure that's super, super clear. Nor was I like trying to insinuate that if you were a groupie or something that you deserved to be mistreated, because that's 100% not true. Um, the only thing I was saying was just at me personally, and I know the people, that I hung out with, that at 16 or 17, if a 20 something year old rock star had wanted me to move in with him or whatever, I wouldn't have even asked my parents for permission. Again, no excuse for any reason at all, but it does make the whole situation extremely confusing, especially because we live in such a cancel culture. And again, super skeezy. Like, gross, 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 gross. But yeah, confusing. What isn't confusing about growing up in cancel culture, I will say, is the Bill Cosby situation. He is a predator. He crossed so many lines so many times. I can't stomach even seeing his face, which is where the actual confusion with him comes in. Because as a younger Gen Xer, he really was a staple of our childhoods, in such a wholesome way, from, Fat Albert and to the Electric Company and the Cosby Show to the Pudding Pop commercials to all the movies like Ghost Dad or even Mother Jugs and Speed. And yes, I did see it when I was a kid. I don't know, man. I saw a lot of stuff. Like, I saw the best, littlest whorehouse in Texas. So, like, in the movie theater, and that came out in like the summer of, I think it was like 1982. So I was like just 5. And I just remember like thinking that the hair and the costumes were just so pretty. But yeah, but even after the 80s and even 90s, Bill Cosby was a part of our lives via our kids with shows like Little Bill. He was a huge staple of family entertainment for decades. So his fall from grace, a rightly and deserved fall, please remember I'm saying that. Like, I want that to like stick so bad. But it was, I think, particularly rough for Gen X, who literally grew up with him. And his fall was in such a heinous way, and like, it was so vile. Like, it just, ugh, I don't know. It sickens me. So yeah, that's where the confusion is my baby brain like lights up with nostalgia, but my adult brain lights up with anger and disappointment and sadness. No confusion that he does indeed suck, and it just adds to my anger with him, honestly, because his horrid and evil actions not only hurt those women in the most extreme and just horrible ways, but he tainted our childhood. And yeah, I don't know, I'm getting like, verklempt here or something. Like, I just that's all I have to say about that, because ew. Another thing I want to touch upon real quick is when I say TV parents were like parenting us, please make no mistake, our parents did parent, just in a different way, and some more than others. And at that point in the conversation, I bring up how therapy wasn't a thing, because the parenting I'm talking about is really the emotional part. That's where a lot of Gen X got those supposed like rite of passage, like heartfelt talks, whether it be about a crush or cheating at school or peer pressure, even loss of loved ones. Our parents weren't sitting on the end of our beds making sure we were okay. They were checking, they like weren't checking in on our feelings. They didn't have those conversations like those TV show parents did. Those were like, I don't know, those were the connections. That's where we got the understanding and the empathy that we weren't getting at home. Like, those shows, it was like the kids were still getting discipline, and the parents would show dismay for whatever, the kid did wrong or was thinking about doing. But the parents still made sure that the kid knew like the lesson that they needed to know, but also that they love them. And I think that's a huge thing that was missing from a lot of Gen X. And I think that's a scar that a lot of us carry. And lastly, when I talk about being sad for the past generations when it comes to therapy or lack thereof, I just want to also clarify I don't mean just Gen X and the scars and battle gear we all carry, but I do also and very much so mean the boomers, the silent generation, everyone. As hard as it is now, and as much work as we do need in the mental health crisis, I can't imagine being in a time where it wasn't a thing, or was, but just was completely frowned upon for like all of the reasons. At least now there is outlets, there is information, help, and understanding. Whether this help comes in like the form of a large capacity of treatment or just provides information and tools even just individual people can use to help themselves and others who are feeling any of the gambit of big sad or big feels or even no feels. At least we live in a time where it is acknowledged. Still a long way to go, but man, everyone should just go and find an older person and hug them today. Just because meaning like life couldn't have been easy. Because, life is weird and a lot of it is perspective. Okay, well, that's going to do it for this episode. I want to thank my special guest, Jade, so much for coming on today and just having a blast being nostalgic and spicy with me. We definitely will be doing it again. As you can tell, we both have a lot to say, so we definitely will. And we absolutely need to do a full Rose episode, as she deserves for the world to know her. She is just amazing and one of my all-time favorite souls to ever honor me with her presence. I'm so lucky to have her as a soul sister, which of course in turn makes Jade my soul cousin, right? So yeah, more will be coming. I want to thank my special guest Jade one more time for coming onto the show and sharing today. And thank you for joining us for Naive in the 90s, the podcast. I hope you'll come back in 2 weeks for a new episode. I have another super special guest planned. Make sure to follow so you don't miss it, and please consider leaving a rating or review if you enjoy the show wherever you stream, as it really does help with visibility. For questions, comments, feedback, or contributions to the conversation, send me a message at naiveinthe90s@gmail.com or connect with me on social media with the handle @naiveinthe90s. Find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And of course, don't forget to grab your copy of Naive in the 90s, the creative nonfiction based on real-life diaries from the early and mid-90s. Follow along as a high schooler tries to navigate life, friends, relationships, and of course, the raddest era ever. Comparable to Go Ask Alice, with one huge difference. Naive in the 90s is 100% real. And if you've read and enjoyed the book, please make sure to leave a review. Each and every one truly helps. Thanks again for joining. Hope to see you next time. Peace and love, my dudes.